Hi guys, and welcome back in MedicalScribe. In this video, we will talk about the epidermis from an anatomical point of view. In the previous video, we said that the skin is composed of two layers. The epidermis, which is the superficial layer, and the dermis, which is the deep layer that's found under the epidermis. And we will explain the epidermis today. The epidermis, from its name, composed of two words, which are epi, that's mean above, and the dermis, which is the deeper layer of the skin that's found under the epidermis, as we said. So from all that, we can conclude that the epidermis is the layer of skin that's found above the dermis. So it is the outermost layer in the skin, which is stratified squamous epithelium. And in the epidermis, we will find four types of cells, which are the keratinocytes, the Langerhans cells, the Merkel cells, and the melanocytes. Also, we may find in the basal layer of the epidermis, or near the dermis, we may find the sensory nerve endings. Alright, now we will talk about how the epidermis will nourish. The epidermis is a vascular layer and devoid of blood supply and lymphatics. So in this case, the nourishment of the epidermis will be done by the dermis. That means the epidermis will receive the nutrients and excrete wastes and secretions from and to the dermis layer. And this process occurs by diffusion. So the nourishment process will occur like this. The substances that's needed by the epidermis will deliver to the upper layer of the dermis by the blood vessels. At the same time, the epidermis cells need these substances. Or by another word, we can say it have a low concentration of these substances. This leads to that the nutrients and particles will move from the dermis because it will be the high concentration area of these substances to the epidermis, which it will be the low concentration area. So that's the meaning of nourishment by diffusion, in which the nutrients or the particles will move from the high concentration area to the low concentration one. And the epidermis also is not of one thickness. No, because there are regions in the body like the palms of the hand and soles of the feet. The epidermis in this region will be thicker than the epidermis of other regions, like the epidermis of the anterior surface of the forearm. And this thickness will help the epidermis in these regions to withstand the wear and tear forces that act on it. So let's suppose that the tearing occurred or the upper layer of the epidermis is left for any reason. In this case, it must regenerate this left layer. This regeneration will occur by the stem cells that found in the basal layer of the epidermis near the dermis. So a new layer will produce in the bottom, and as a consequence, the other old layers will push up toward the left layer. So the epidermis will conserve its thickness. So what happens is that a new layer will produce from the stem cells in the basal layer of the epidermis that will push the other old layers up to replace this left one. Finally, we have to know the functions of the epidermis layer. The epidermis has two main functions, which are the protection, because the epidermis will serve as the first line or the initial barrier of protection against the outer environment. While the second function is that the absorption of nutrients. That means when we put a skin care cream on our skin, for example, the epidermis will absorb the nutrients of that cream and push it down to the deeper layer. So that's the main functions of the epidermis. That was almost everything about the epidermis layer. And that's it. I hope what I said makes sense. See you next video, and goodbye.